Good morning. We are back at Lori Wilson Park, meeting up with family in a few hours. Going to walk the beach. Then tonight we are going to head up the coast to I think it's a Space View Park. We were there a few weeks ago to watch a launch. There was another one tonight at 7:20, so the family's going to get to see that. Other than that, it's probably just going to be a hanging out day, not doing much. Update on the refrigerator. This is now day 2 of running again. Hopefully it was just a one-off problem, because I don't want to buy a new refrigerator, but we'll see when we get home. So if anything exciting happens today, we'll let you know. Good morning. It's a rainy day in Florida. We woke up this morning to a refrigerator at room temperature. Sometime like yesterday or through the night, the refrigerator stopped working. It was 70 degrees when we got up. So we turned it off, didn't do anything, turned it off again for about 15 minutes. It seems like it may be running again, but we threw out a lot of food that was probably ruined from being at room temperature for a good amount of time. Just waiting to see what's going to happen with that. Having the discussion, do we just limp along with it, or when we get home, do we just order a new one? A replacement.
I'd say a replacement is in order, because we've had so many issues with this one, and if you're out and about, it's hard to fix. So
yeah,
I think a new one is in our future. But otherwise, we are parked at Disney Springs. We are going to catch a bus to Wilderness Lodge, do some work, hang out in a nice lodge on a rainy day,
and then head over to the Titusville area tonight to meet my sister and niece and brother-in-law tomorrow, spend some time with them Wednesday, and then probably head home. Our trip has sort of run out of steam.
Well, we had other plans, but refrigerator kind of put
a damper on that.
Yeah, so oh well, we're gonna have a good day. Nothing else you can do.
A dog enjoying a walk on the beach, as everybody does. We're here with family. It is a beautiful day. Lots of surfers out there. A view of Cape Canaveral. Probably not going to show up on the GoPro. And a fair number of people out enjoying the weather. There is a Falcon 9 launch tonight, which we're going to watch from the Space View Park with the family. We're going early to look at the monuments that are there for the Mercury, Gemini, Apollo, and Space Shuttle programs, and learn some history about the space program. So come along. The Space View Park was founded in 1994, and the first monument that went in was to the Mercury Project, and that opened in 1995. And so that's where we're going to start the tour.
I will.
Here's just some information about the start of rocketry, I guess. The Chinese discovered rockets in the 3rd century BC. Star Spangled Banner about rockets. Jules Verne. Robert Goddard. Here is the Mercury 7 monument. And there are hand impressions for all of the astronauts that were still alive. Gus Grissom died in Apollo 1 fire with Ed White and Mike Chaffee. So Gus's handprints aren't here. And Alan Shepard was the first American in space. He did a suborbital flight. And so here's his handprints. Gus Grissom was the second American in space, another suborbital flight. And I've read some NASA history that potentially he would have been the first person to walk on the moon had he lived. So we'll check and see if that was in fact true. And then John Glenn was the first American to orbit the Earth. If you have never seen the movie The Right Stuff, I would highly recommend watching it. You know, as a child of the space age or the race to the moon, this is just really a magic place to visit. To get from the Mercury 7 monument over to Gemini and Apollo, go across this bridge. The Gemini program was a two-person spacecraft, and it was designed to test many of the maneuvers that were going to be required for going to the moon and with Apollo. So there were two additional classes of astronauts that were in the Gemini program. There were some Mercury 7 astronauts. There was a group called the New or the Next 9, which was Group 2, and then Group 3 was sort of referred to as, I believe, the 14. Armstrong was part of Group 2, and Buzz Aldrin was part of Group 3. They kept changing the requirements for who could become an astronaut. Originally, Mercury 7 all had to be test pilots, and as the selection process grew and expanded, that requirement was reduced or eliminated. On this section of the walk is representations of the mission patches. So this is for Gemini 12, I guess the last one. Some reliefs here. This is Ed White. Again, he was killed in Apollo 1 handprints. That's for Tom Stafford. Neil Armstrong's handprints. The original astronauts were relatively small people because of the limitations of the spacecraft. I think for Mercury, did they all have to be under 5'11"? And here's Buzz Aldrin. This is the monument to the Apollo program.
this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal, before this decade is out, of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the Earth.
The Apollo program not only covered the missions to the moon, but it covered Skylab, which was the first U.S. space station. And I think in '75 it was the Apollo-Soyuz joint mission, where they docked in space together and exchanged flags and such. Maybe we'll find some footage we can put inside. These are all people, astronauts and workers, that lost their lives as part of the program. This monument is for the Space Shuttle program. Here's another class of astronauts. They were named the 35 New Guys. I was a senior in college when Challenger blew up. I remember that day.